No, such good water, much better than the muddy dam water. And here come what looks to be some of the delinquent crew. Managed to splash on his head. Such beautiful late afternoon light on them, and this little one is doing more playing with his trunk than actually doing anything, still in the process of learning how to use it. Isn't that sweet? I don't think he's actually getting much water into his mouth. Seems to be going everywhere else. Definitely looks like that female with the long tusks who's just arrived with the delinquents is a little bit more dominant and probably the matriarch, because the other elephant immediately moved out of her way when she arrived. Isn't this incredibly special to be able to sit this close to a herd of elephants? And you can see they have taken very little notice of us. More interested in that nice cool water. Causing quite a bit of dust as well. See how they had it. If they have a choice, they chose to come to this little pumped pan as opposed to drinking muddy Djuma dam cam water. So all this activity is happening less than sort of 3-4 meters from us. Quite a crowd for a little waterhole. You can actually almost smell the dust that's getting water on it. So that almost like that first rains, that first few drops of rain, is a very similar smell to that. And we can smell elephants quite strongly. beautiful. Okay, guys, let's try count how many elephants we've got here. Let's do it. Try to do it by camera, even though there's a pile.
Where do you want to start?
I'm trying to think. It's going to be quite difficult. You almost have to count feet. You can see one right at the back behind them, who hasn't come down to drink, the young bull with the one tusk. Oh, I don't even see that one. You're seeing more from higher. Okay, so how about you count and I count and meet somewhere in the middle. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Let's go around the waterhole first and try to figure out afterwards. So 1, let's start on the one in the center. 1, you go to the left. Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, keep still. You've been counted now. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, oh, 13 in the back, 14, I guess probably around 20, but I can't see all of them, and there are still some coming. Hello lady, how are you doing? Did you enjoy your drink? I wonder if this is the same female who seems to like you. Last time, I think we're sitting in the exact same position at the Hi Virginia. Virginia would like to know how many gallons do I think the Ellies drink in such a short time at the waterhole. Quite a few. I'm trying to remember, I think 4.5 liters is 1 gallon, and a big adult bull elephant during the day can consume up to 100 liters of water, so 4.5 divided by 100. Give me a second. Maths is definitely not my strong point. But I think on average these guys will consume easily 80 liters of water a day. And the females, that is. And I'll try and get that into gallons for you. It's about 17 gallons of water a day that these guys would drink, but not always in one sitting. Hi Christina from Pittsburgh. Christina would like to know how much water one adult elephant can hold within its trunk. I'm trying to remember, but I think it is about, it's a couple of liters. I mean, maybe even as much as 5 or 6 liters. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to see if I've got something in my big book. And why don't we have a race? See if you guys can beat me to the answer while I look in my book. See if you can find the answer faster than I can. So how many liters or gallons can an adult elephant hold in its trunk in one go? So ready, steady, go. You can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. You can see how close this young bull is to us now. And we've got a question from Keith, who's 6 years old, from the Dayton Children's Hospital. Oh, look at this there, isn't that sweet? Hello little one. Yes, you're big and scary. Keith would like to know, when an infant wags its tail, does it mean it's happy, like a dog? Well, Keith, not really. More the wagging of the tail is generally more to keep flies and stuff away. and other things that might irritate the elephant. Not quite like a dog where it's a visual sign that it's very happy, but it is so wonderful to be able to spend time with these ellies like this. Look at this little one, he's playing with mom. And thanks very much for your question, Keith. Oh dear. What are you doing? Hi, Len. He's a student from the Crawford Plains School in Canada. Len would like to know where the ear canal is situated on the elephant, in the front and the back. And there we go. There's a great opportunity there. You can actually see into the ear canal there a bit. And there we go. So it is in the front. It is quite well hidden. You can see it's got some hair around it. It's just a little bit of protection. And you can see there behind the back, nothing. Len would also like to know why are elephants' ears so big. Then one of the main functions of elephants' ears is cooling them down. So they can hold up to 8 liters of blood in both their ears, and when they're flapping like that, blood that is warm from the rest of the body is transported into their ears, and you'll see there's a very large network of veins in their ears, and as they blow their ears like that, wag them up and down, it enables them to cool that blood, and then the cool blood is then pumped through to the rest of the body. So it is I'm getting tongue twisted today. It is a cooling function. Yes, madam. Can we see you? Now, in a situation like this, although this herd is particularly relaxed, we wouldn't want to start the car and move because that could upset them. So we're going to sit here for a little bit, and I've got a little quiz for you guys out there while we do that. Who can tell me what the difference is between the tip of an Asiatic elephant's trunk and an African elephant's trunk? So we can have a little look at the trunk. There we go. You can see there's one there. What is the main difference between the tip of an Asian elephant's trunk and an African elephant's trunk? And you can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive if you are on Twitter. Hello. So it looks like they've finished now, and they are heading off into the bush to feed, and we will wait for them to move off, and then we will head off and look at those lines. Very strange what she's doing there. It looks like she's almost using that as a scratch. Using that broken branch to scratch. Uh-oh. You ready for a dust bath, Brian? Mm-hmm. Here we go. One elephant just flung some dust up in the air, and we're got a little bit covered in it. There's a little fork-tailed drongo on the ground. I don't know if you can see him. There we go. Taking advantage of any insects that are possibly disturbed by the ellies as they move past. So, there we go. Oh, we got something nice and big there. Like a big grasshopper. Oh, another drongo coming in to take advantage. Look at that, he just strongers. There we go. Thank you to Matt and Kenneth, who were faster than me. I'm going to have to close my book now because you guys were much quicker. An elephant in trunk can hold, I think it was said 4 gallons? No, that can't be right. 1 gallon, which is 4.5 liters. Sorry, that's where my mind was going. And my friend, the jumping spider, is back, except this time he's jumped all the way up to my steering wheel. So that is not a safe place to be while you are hunting things, Mr. Jumping Spider. I think you should jump back to where the radios are. So, he's the jigger's local parasite control agent. So, while the ellies look like they're going to move off, we're going to do the same. I'm just going to move my friend the jumping spider. You might be able to see him jump now. I'm going to see if he jumps back to where he should be. Where is he now? I'm going to wait for him to. Come on. There he is. And you can see how much... Oh, come on. He doesn't want to jump now. He's getting used to me. Come on. Off you go. Oh, he jumps onto my finger. Come on. Jump. 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 Doesn't want to jump now. Like, I'm not a trained jumping spider. There we go. Hop. And back down to where it's safe. And the steering wheel, I'm afraid I might hurt him if he's there, so, but when he runs around down there, he should be perfectly fine. And he helps me to keep the pesky flies and mosquitoes under control in the jigger. He's our pest control agent. And amazing, such a small spider like that can actually catch a fly that's double its size. Hi Marsha, welcome on the sunset safari. It's getting a little bit nippy, so out comes my jersey. Marsha is from Oklahoma, and Marsha would like to know, why wouldn't the elephants, or would the elephants warn the Nyala about the lions being so close by? Well, Marsha, elephants, I mean Nyala and elephants, I don't think speak the same language, unfortunately, and with a lot of the species, the reason, I don't think the elephants actually saw the lions. They might have smelt them, but in this area prides of lions aren't really a threat to an elephant herd, and they will chase them on occasion when they're around, but they're not really a threat, especially to a herd that size. So they probably just ignored them and kept walking through where the lions are a direct threat to the Nyala, so the Nyala will just bark and bark, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Obviously, it does let other animals know that the lions are in the area, but also the main reason is this, that once lions and leopards and things like that have been spotted and they're barked at and harassed, they'll generally move out of the area, so it makes the area safe again. So I think it's more about their own safety than letting everyone else know. Well done to Morning Glory, Elise, and many others who got that correct about the difference between the trunks of Asian and African elephants, and it is that the Asian elephants only have one tip to the trunk, whereas the African elephants have that double tip, that prehensile tip. So while we're making our way back towards lions, we're going to cross across to Commander Bond, who is with a predator of another kind.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy. I believe you've had a magnificent sighting, and we greet you here at the hyena den, where the adults have just returned, 2 of them, and what's so fascinating now is that you can see their penises and pseudo-penises, and you can actually tell who's male and female at the moment. Well, you could, just before you arrived back. And what's going on there is a typical greeting ritual. That they've all the babies have done that with the mother, and they're now, the 3 babies are so close. There you can just see them, and they were so nervous of us until the mother came back. She came back about 2 minutes ago, and they all then suddenly became immediately confident, and there they are. So they've obviously been out sort of foraging during the day, which is I would have said quite odd, especially given the amount of activity I've seen of them out at night. Whether they found anything, I don't know. They look pretty full, so maybe they found something nice to eat. Hi. Oh, very sweet. So I was reading the other day, you can now sex these youngsters you can tell if a male is a male or a female is a female from the pseudo-penis, depending on whether it looks like sort of pinched on the end, and the males are pinched and the females are not. As soon as we move on the back of the vehicle, they get a little bit nervous, but they're pretty confident with the adults here. Hello. This I'm blocking the view here of one that is so close. Like I said before, they like to steal the oil caps every so often. He's now going past the front. And one of them is now trying to suckle. There we go, Mum's back. You can have a meal now. That female, I don't know if you saw her yawn there. It looks to me like she's quite old. You can see how flat or how blunt her teeth are. And just listen to them. Isn't that a wonderful sound? That one is way too old to be suckling. So perhaps a youngster from another litter. That is fascinating. I mean, that is not a young hyena. That's at least a year and a bit old. The mother has a very resigned look on her face. And there's now one, you won't be able to see it, but there's a youngster sitting not 2 feet from me. Every time I look at him, he goes running away. Hi. He's literally 2 feet from me, and Vian would show you, but the camera... the camera disturbed him, I'm afraid. Now there is a large dispute. I suspect someone gave Mum a nip on her nipple, and so she's not disinclined to acquiesce to any further suckling. There we go. Order is restored. Hello, Pamela. A question of dentition. How many teeth do hyenas normally have? Pamela, I have to admit that I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. I can find out though. I'll do my best to do so. I'm going to guess at 4 incisors each side, so that's 8, plus 4 canines, so that's 12, plus 3 molars top, 3 molars bottom on each side, so that's 12 plus, I'm going to go with 24 teeth, Pamela, but I can check later. Brent has a great mammal book, and that'll give a picture of the skull exactly. So I think that youngster, or that the one paying so much attention to who is clearly the matriarch, is definitely a youngster from another generation. I can't imagine why else she would have been suckling. There is now a little one basically climbing onto my lap. It's so scared, terrified every time I look at him. It's very funny. There he is. Hi. Very sweet. Isn't that great? It's wonderful how they habituate. Two lovely questions from Alberta, Canada, from Chase, and sorry, I'm just having a quick look here. There we go. From 2 students at Crawford, I think it's called Crawford something, in Alberta, Canada. And you want to know, first of all, good question, why are they in such a big group? Well, this is not a very big group of hyenas. They'll get up to sort of 50 individuals in East Africa in one clan. This is a pretty average size. This isn't the whole clan. I mean, this is a small grouping of the clan that has this as its territory, I would imagine. Isn't that sweet? And related to that question is, why are they in such a big group? Is that they need to defend themselves, and so the bigger predators tend to be in groups. So lions are obviously the biggest predators we get out here, and they're always in a group. And then the hyenas are also always in a group, and they're the second biggest. Leopards aren't. The dogs tend to be. So our biggest dog is the wild dog, and they live in a group just like wolves do in Canada. And so it's mainly for protection, and also because they're more effective hunters as a group, in the case of hyena. But they don't hunt in this particular area as much as lions do, and so they do spread out when more scavenging in this part of the world than they do hunting, whereas in East Africa they do a lot more hunting, and the lions tend to scavenge a bit more. Tammy, you have made me look like a fool, but thank you very much for that. It's important that I look like a fool when I guess. You've said that hyenas can have up to 59 teeth. Now I find that absolutely astonishing. Thank you very much for that. I really enjoy learning new things like that, especially when we're on Game Drive and looking at these things. I find reading the books a little bit dry when we aren't out here looking at these fascinating animals. I think these are the most underrated animals that we get out here. Hello Gurpreet, lovely question. You're also from Crawford Plains in Alberta, Canada. You want to know how strong the hyena's jaw is. Well, the hyena's jaw is the strongest of of any mammal. So it has the most powerful bite of any mammal. To give you an idea, if the adult wanted to, he could easily bite straight through that little stick that the cub was playing with. Oh, that's wonderful interaction. And they will easily bite through an adult will bite through a buffalo femur to get to the marrow, and they're the only animals that can do that. The next closest would be a lion in this area, and then we have some information about jaguars, which apparently have the toughest or most powerful cat bite, but they obviously don't occur here. They occur just quite a long way south of where you are. Right, thank you for your question, Gurpreet. Hi. So Tanya, you have found some information that says that a jaguar has a bite pressure of 2,000 pounds per square inch versus a hyena at 1,600 pounds per square inch and a lion at 600 pounds per square inch. I'm fascinated by this. So I may have been talking absolute nonsense when I've said that the hyena has the most powerful bite of any mammal. I'm going to go and do some further research. But certainly out here it has the most powerful bite, but that's fascinating. I'm clearly underestimated the exceptional power of the jaguar's jaws. At 2,000 pounds per square inch, I mean that is a substantially powerful bite. I wish we could show you this little hyena here that's trying to bite bits and pieces off the door of the car next to me, but unfortunately he's so close. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move very slowly and get out my phone, which is off, turn it on, load the camera, and when he comes back I will take a picture and I will Instagram it. Possibly not immediately, not much signal out where we are here. Can you see that, yeah? It's not there we go. There you can see him there. That's how close he is. Trying to take bits and pieces off the tire. I think these are the most underrated African animals there are. And hey, no, that's the oil cap. You can't take that. Go on, clear off. Don't look at me like that. Hey. And I think that if we were to spend a bit more time with them like we do with the lions and the leopards, I think that their secrets and their incredible social structure would become even more amazing to us. The Lion King, as I've said before, has done untold damage to the reputation. Kay in Wisconsin, you want to know if these hyenas are eating regurgitated meals yet. Kay, hyenas don't regurgitate quite in the same way. In fact, I've not seen them do it at all. I mean, I'm sure they possibly could, but wild dogs will regurgitate almost, from a few weeks they'll regurgitate for the cubs. But hyenas will suckle like this and then be taken, much like with the cats, they'll be taken over to kills or have stuff brought back for them to eat, sort of more solid food. I've yet to see a hyena regurgitate for cubs. if you have, that would be fascinating to know. I've also not, I don't think I've read anything about that either. Look, I'm not saying it's impossible, but wild dogs are certainly the most prolific regurgitators of food for their youngsters. So more than likely what would happen here is that, it's not a major part of the strategy. What they do is, as they start to wean, the mothers will bring a few bits of food back here, and then they'll start to take them off to food that they find. Hello Genevieve, New York. A beautiful question, very nuanced answer that I'm going to have to try and give to you. And I was actually doing some reading on hyenas today as we watched that cub chewing on the end of her mother's nose. I mean, that is an astonishing thing to see. Genevieve, you want to know, the females have much higher testosterone levels than the males, which has conferred certain advantages, but you're saying, why have other animals not done that, and what sort of was the evolutionary pressure perhaps that drove them towards this sort of unique social structure? Genevieve, I'll tell you what the advantage of it is. The advantage of it is that in so many animal societies, the role of the male is simply to mate, and then he disappears, and that's the end of his job. Now, that despite the fact that he has all the size and the ability to protect, he will often not do so. So with hyenas, the advantage is that the females have higher testosterone, they have greater size, and so they're not reliant. They have sufficient size to protect the area, and they don't need to do so with the help of the males. So the males really are truly reduced to the level of a sperm donor, basically. And this is, as I'm talking, I'm sort of thinking off the top of my head, and just according to what I've read. So when evolution happens, or when a mutation happens, that mutation either creates an advantage, which will mean that it proliferates in future generations, or it will result in a disadvantage, which means it will result in death probably, and it will then die out of the gene pool. Now what happened with hyenas probably, and I'm guessing here, is that there would have been a genetic mutation that suddenly made certain hyenas, females, gain a certain amount of testosterone, which made them bigger, and that strategy for hyenas worked out because it created the ability for a matriarchal society where the females could almost play the role of males and females, if you know what I mean, because they're big enough and strong enough to protect the area from marauding interlopers, and possibly also from bigger predators, or more competitive predators. So only the spotted hyena is a competitive predator like this. The brown hyena and the striped hyena are way down the predator hierarchy. So that, in a sort of roundabout way, is an answer to that very lovely question from New York. Certainly I'd love to hear any opinions you have on it. Jennifer in Canada, another brilliant question. You want to know, do the males not have testes? They both got what looks like a penis. Do the males not have testes that makes it obvious that they're males? The answer is yes, but so do the females. The females' labia are sort of packaged such that they look like testes, which would reduce when they get older, but when they're young and it's sort of breeding age, they look almost identical to a scrotum. How you can tell though, as soon as a female has had young, her teats obviously will remain relatively swollen, which the males won't have, and so that's quite a good way of telling. But in these youngsters, as you see them there, being fairly indiscreet on camera, you won't be able to tell the difference. The best way to tell the difference when they're this age is the shape of the pseudopenis or penis. And the pseudopenis tends to be very straight and unshaped on the end, and the penis has a sort of pinched end to it. So when I was looking at these two just before you got to us, when I saw them standing next to each other, and when the adults arrived, and it's difficult to say what they are, pseudo and and real peni came out. One was definitely pinched and the other was straight, and as I surmised last time we were here, I said it's most probable that one of them's male and one of them's female, because if they had both been female, one of them would have killed the other. They could both be male, but I think from what I've seen, so there, to me, that looks like a female. It's not pinched on the end, and so I would guess that that was a female, and the other one is probably a male. Some really nice views of it here. There, you can see that one's much more pinched than the other. So I'm going to believe myself here, or choose to, make myself feel good. Righty, so Nigel, a lovely question. You've said that jaguar, you've read bite by biting the skull rather than biting the throat like a leopard does. Yes and no. A leopard with small prey will do exactly that. It will bite the skull or the back of the neck here, because a swift bite to the back of the neck, and all cats will actually do this, will snap the spinal column and result in death immediately. And when they go for the throat, what they're trying to do is to stop the animal being able to talk. So as soon as you could just do it yourself, put your hand on your throat and squeeze, that's quite difficult to talk, and especially if there are two canines like that stuck in there. And they'd want to stop the animal calling, the victim calling, because obviously if for a leopard or a cheetah do it especially, it stops attracting. As soon as these animals like hyenas hear the distress call of a duiker or an impala or something like that, they'll run there and steal the food. But leopard definitely will kill, especially primates. They kill them by a bite to the back of the skull. A jaguar is bigger than a leopard, so probably do it more frequently. And then some other lovely statistics about bite pressures from a crocodile, they say, which is the highest bite pressure of all animals. Remember, we were talking about mammals earlier, not all animals. And the Nile crocodile has a bite pressure of 5,000 pounds per square inch, which is, I mean, that's quite astonishing. And the most interesting thing about a Nile crocodile's jaws, of course, is that you could, despite the fact that if it brought its teeth down onto your leg, it would probably snap it off. In fact, it would snap it off. You can hold a crocodile's jaws shut with your hands. Have very, very powerful muscles to slam it shut. Very poor at opening. So you can actually tape them shut with sort of insulation tape. So if you want to jump on the back of a crocodile and try that before it bites you, that's how to do it. Angela in Boston, nice question. If I got out of the vehicle now, would the hyenas attack me or would they run away? Angela, for a hyena to attack a human being, you have got to be you basically have to corner it. And despite the fact that they are protective over their young, I suspect what they do here, if I got out the car, the youngsters would leap into the burrow at 100 miles an hour, and the adults would disappear off into the bush and watch from some distance. I think, from my experience with hyenas, especially on foot, the probability of them actually coming after me would be very small. Even maybe if I got my hands into the den, they might try something, but I think it's highly unlikely. And that's very different from a lion. If there were lions here and cubs, if I got out of the vehicle, the lionesses would go ballistic. The cubs would probably run, but the lionesses, you can far more easily induce a lion charge with cubs than you would with hyenas. I've had lots of experience with hyenas in camps. They come into camp at night and they normally will just run away from you unless you corner them. So Brent tells a story of when he cornered a hyena in a kitchen once, and he kicked it, and it, just like you might a sort of errant dog, if you were cruel, and he kicked it to try and get it out of the kitchen because it was creating absolute mayhem, and it then turned on him. And suddenly the relationship was very different, and Brent found himself standing on a table yelling for help quite soon thereafter. But he had to corner them before they would do anything. Hello, little Cameron, aged 5 at Dayton Children's Hospital. Thank you for your question. It's a really nice one. What would happen, you say, would a hyena, could you teach it to play fetch for you? The answer, Cameron, is that I don't think you could, and I'll tell you why. A hyena is more a cat than it is a dog. Now, I don't know how much experience you have with domestic cats, but if you throw a stick for a domestic cat, it will look at you as though you're mad. Dogs have a very different response to that, and a lot of dogs have been trained from many, many hundreds of years ago to go and fetch things and bring them back, and it mainly had to do with hunting. So that people would go hunting and they would either wound an animal or shoot it when they needed to eat it, and then the dogs would go and fetch it. And that's where that response to fetch comes from. It's really inbred into some of those dog breeds. But a hyena is not a dog, remember that. Although they look like dogs to a certain extent. So I don't think they would play fetch for you. You can, I believe, domesticate them to a certain extent. That means, Cameron, that you can, if you raise them from when they're very little cubs, they will become quite tame, but I still don't think they will go and fetch balls and bring them back, especially with jaws that powerful. They'll probably just snap them in half and bring them back and eat them, swallow them whole. Hello, little Sharisa in grade 3 at Crawford Plains School in Alberta, Canada. I hope you're enjoying your summer. I'm sure you're supposed to be on holiday soon. I'm not sure why you're at school. You want to know basically how many males and females there are in clans, and whether there are more of one than the other. I'd say the ratio is probably pretty close to 50-50, Sharisa, if not slightly in favor of males, because of the fact that if they're born as twins, two females are born as twins, one will kill the other. So I would say there are probably slightly more males than there are in a clan. Remember, this is not the whole clan. The whole clan will have a huge area in a reserve like this, and they're only in one place like this because they have a den. And so this is a sort of mother and a nursemaid, and they look after the babies until they're big enough to forage on their own and forage with the clan. You will only find the whole clan coming together at a really big kill, where they've all been called together. They will recognize each other if they see each other, but that's basically what happens. So I would say slightly more males than females. Nice question, that. Now what will happen slowly as they go into the night, I'm surprised these adults were away. They clearly forage a lot more in the day than we think they do, and I'm sure they spent the heat of the midday lurking in the shade somewhere, but I suspect at some stage during the night these adults will go off looking for something to eat. That is after all what they are designed to do, and then the babies will disappear into this rather snug looking termite mound. I've got to tell you, I wouldn't mind if I was the size of a hyena and disappearing down into the hole in the termite mound and having a snooze there. Pamela, how long can hyenas live for? Pamela, if I'm not mistaken, up to about 15 years probably out here. I suspect in captivity you could probably push them up to 20, 25 maybe. Probably 20. Out here about 15 years, so just a bit longer than the lions do. Mainly because I think their lives are slightly easier. They don't have to defend so much territory, and they don't do quite so much in the way of physical hunting, so they don't get damaged by hunting, and they don't fight nearly as much as the hyenas do. What have you seen, Viam?
That's it.
Viam is having a very artistic day today. He's just showing you that the sun has disappeared, and for Ashley in the UK, who likes the atmospheric stuff, it's still very peaceful, I must say. The temperature's dropped quite a lot though, so my legs are getting a little chilly, and there's definitely a change in the smell. There's a bit more moisture in the air, and so the air smells a bit richer, a bit more earthy. But you can see how the horizon is not nearly as orange as it was yesterday, and that's because there's no smoke in the air. It's really very crystal clear out. That's probably got something to do with the cold. And just off to behind us and to the left we can hear some drongos calling. The final calls, and then again there's a waterhole not too far from here where there's some crested francolins calling their last call of the day. Hi John boy, you want to know how many individuals there are in this clan? The answer is I couldn't possibly tell you. These are the only ones that I've seen from the clan, and I'm assuming that the clan is much bigger than this. There are no males here, so I'm assuming that the males and possibly some other sub-adult females are out and about the place looking for food. So I'm afraid I don't really know how big this particular clan is. I say in East Africa the clans will stick together a lot more because they hunt a lot more, and there can be up to 50 of them, all foraging together and trying to hunt, especially when the migrations come through. But here much smaller than that. I'd be surprised if the clan numbered more than 10 or 12 individuals. Happy Cub, nice question. So will the hyenas chase away males when they get to a certain age? excellent supposition. That's exactly what happens. So the males, once they reach about a year, will be tossed out and have to go and find themselves another clan to live in, and that obviously prevents any kind of inbreeding, which is very helpful for the long-term sort of longevity of the species, and then of the offspring of this particular clan. So the matriarchal society is mainly one of females and their sisters, cousins and aunts, and then the males will be fairly unrelated. They'll come in from elsewhere. Look how beautifully colored they are for this time of the day and for this kind of vegetation. So you can imagine them walking through here when it gets just a little bit darker, and the camera is pushing the light a bit, so it's not quite as light as it looks there on the camera. You can imagine them walking through the bush at night. Very easy for them to hide. Slightly blackened ears at the back, a bit like lions, but not nearly as marked. So a question from Jeps in Johannesburg, who is asking about the pseudo-penis. We have discussed the pseudo-penis in some detail, but we'll go into it again because it's important with hyenas. Thank you for this question, Jeps. Also, and linked to that is a comment from Europe that the pseudo-penis in males, well, obviously males don't have a pseudo-penis, they have a real penis, and in the real penis, as we discussed earlier, it's got a sort of bell end to it. It looks like it's a bit pinched before the end, and it's got a bell end. Hey, sorry, they're pulling my oil caps off, or Wendy's oil caps off. And then the pseudo-penis of the females tends not to have that very distinct bell end. So thank you for that question, Jeps. Please send through any further that you would like to. I think we haven't heard from you before, which is excellent. So we'll probably sit with them just a little bit longer, just before it gets too dark for the camera to be able to see them, and then we'll press on and see what other nocturnal creatures we can find. Like I say, I don't think the adults are going to spend most of the evening here. I think they'll probably go off and see what they can pilfer and steal from other predators who've done the hard work. Alternatively, they might try and catch something themselves, but they don't do that a huge amount in this area. Because of their design, they like to hunt in open areas and where they can run prey down, and that's not so easy in the thick bush that tends to make up most of the Sabi sands. Something quite interesting is that I have not smelt them, and hyenas can smell utterly horrendous. And unlike the wild dogs, which have a very obvious sort of doggy smell, the hyenas here don't seem to have much of an odor about them, but they do mark territory with a particularly foul-smelling anal gland. But they thankfully haven't been doing too much of that around here of late. I'm just going to plug the spotlight in. Now Viam's taking his life into his hands by attaching it to a fairly substantial battery pack. If there's a sudden flash of light, that is Viam exploding. and then I will have to operate the camera as well. Oh, whew, there we go. Leon has not exploded, which is something of a relief. We don't want to put too much light on them because they are young still, and we don't want to give them any disadvantage. If a big male leopard came across them on his own and the adults weren't here, they would be in a bit of trouble. So they need to stay quite close to the den and have all of their sort of senses and functions in full order in order to avoid any danger. They're fascinated by the collar. You can see how the adults really don't care anymore. The one that's suckling is a one that's suckling seems to have gone asleep on the boob, as it were. Woken up now. James in Johannesburg, you ask a fairly commonly asked question. When will the clan eat again? The answer, James, is basically when they're hungry again. And I suspect that will be the adults look fairly well fed as it is. The youngsters will eat whenever they can, probably. I think probably that the adults will bring stuff back for them. But the adults will try and eat during the course of the night, I suspect, but it is very difficult to tell exactly when they're going to eat again. You know, they don't have restaurants on tap down the end of the drainage line, sort of thing. So they're very opportunistic hyenas, and they'll eat pretty much whenever they can, unless there's a huge surfeit of food. Right, I think we're going to leave them. I don't want to create too much of a ruckus before it gets too dark, at least after it gets too dark. And I'm also not convinced that Wendy is going to have much of a left tire left by the time we leave. We're going to cross over to Brent. I think he's still with the Nkuhuma Pride, and we will see you a little bit later. Enjoy the lions.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we're still with the Nkuhuma Pride, and they are still very lazy lions. Unfortunately, there's been very little movement. There's been nothing coming down to the waterhole to entice them into hunting, but there is a little bit more movement than there was earlier, and there's a little bit of moaning and sighing and a little bit of stretching. So we're hoping that is the precursor to movement shortly. So we're not going anywhere, don't worry. Enjoying these kitty cats, even though they're not doing too much at the moment. We've been having a great time with James at the hyena den, and some great activity there. Definitely a lot more activity than we're getting from these lazy lions. But as I said, I did hear them hunting last night, so they probably expended a lot of energy trying to catch that buffalo that I heard them battling with last night, and now they are resting up and will hopefully get moving shortly. So I don't know if you could hear that, but that we had a question about lions snoring earlier. Now one is snoring. I'm going to keep quiet, so see if you guys can hear it. almost sounds like Andrew the aardvark snoring when he has a nap on the couch during the day. How apt that the afternoon, the sunset safari, we talk about snoring lions. They decide to snore. And there's Junior, curled up. There we go, did you guys hear it? There's the snoring lion. So the lion's lucky. It's a lion. We had a rule when I was at boarding school when we lived in dormitories. Anyone who was just keep snoring. It was amazing. Our rule at boarding school: if someone snored in the dormitory, you're allowed to walk up to them, punch them in the stomach, and it taught people very quickly not to sleep on their backs or sides wherever they snored. So I don't think I'm brave enough to go give the lion a tap in the belly.
Do you know which one it is?
I'm trying to work it out. I think it's this young female. Just because her head's at a strange angle. So I think it's that young female there.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. It is her. It's just probably because her head's lying in quite an awkward position up against the other line there. It seems to be getting louder, this snoring. So apparently James has been telling stories about me trying to remove a hyena that was caught in a kitchen at a lodge both James and I worked at, and that was a few years ago, and that was quite an endeavour. The silly chef forgot to close the kitchen door, and when she went back she found some hyenas there, and for some reason when any of these sort of problems happened to arise at this particular lodge, I was called, and someone even, it could have even been James, nicknamed me the Problem Animal Control Officer. So when there were snakes to be caught and removed out of rooms and hyenas to be chased, it was generally fell on me. So I went into the kitchen, and there were actually 3 hyenas in the kitchen, and they had made a complete mess. And quite often you can just chase a hyena when it's out in the open, but when they try run on tiles, it's a really funny thing, because they sort of tick, 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 boof, and they can't take the corners, so they end up smashing into the walls. And I was running behind the hyenas, and I let out with my boot to kick this thing to try get it to go out the door, and I kicked it, and how fast that hyena snapped at my foot, I immediately stopped chasing the hyenas, and I told the chef, you know what, you get the hyenas out of your kitchen, I'm done, just leave the door open, they'll leave when they're finished. I got a very big fright. My foot was about this far from being inside a hyena's mouth. Not very clever, the silly things you do when you're young. So not much movement here. But we had quite an interesting question from Sibosiso in Hammanskraal this morning. So in the name of science and entertainment and the name of the Wild Earth viewers, Brian and I have decided that we will follow up on that, and one of the plants that it could have been is a silver cluster leaf. So Brian and I are going to try and chew a leaf and see what happens to us, to see if it paralyzes our mouths like whatever Sibosiso was given by his guide in the Waterberg. So Brian, one for you.
Thank you.
One for me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Silver cluster leaf.
Yeah, that seems looking. Oh my goodness. Yes, it definitely really dries your mouth out. And it does sort of have a semi sort of paralyzing effect, and definitely I think if you put a whole bunch of these in your mouth and started chewing, you would find it very difficult to speak. So Sibosiso, did it look like this? A silver cluster leaf. The lions didn't think we're that funny, and obviously we need to work on our humor. Sorry guys. Oh, that was vile. I need some water. I mean, that's what you almost call a pile of lions, rather than a pride of lions.
Welcome back everybody to Wendy. I'm afraid I lied to you slightly by mistake about the state of the sky, and I said it was paler than it was yesterday. That was just the position we were in. Underneath that crescent moon is the most beautiful horizon, with the mountains in the distance, the dubious settlement of Hoedspruit just in its foothills, and Acornhoek just south of that, and it's turned red by the wood fires that are burning, probably for heating and for cooking, and the odd fire break that's being burned. And the smell of the air at the moment is just touched with that lovely smell of wood fire, which is such a beautiful smell of this time of the year. It always makes me feel a tremendous sense of comfort when I smell a wood fire, especially on a stunning night like this. I mean, you could not ask for more. And it's just so perfectly still. Only thing I can hear, and you won't be able to hear it, is two little scrub hares that are just foraging and fossicking in the grass next to us. And now they're running off down the road. And of course the fork-tailed drongo, ubiquitous little fellow that he is at this time of the night. Look at that beautiful moon. I hope that's the drongo there, just flying through the right hand side of your screen. I hope you're getting some sense of the absolute majesty that Biam and I are being privileged to watch right now. I think, like I've said before, I like to be in the bush mainly for stuff like this. Yes, the animals are exciting and they're wonderful to have, and it's a privilege to spend time with them. But at the end of the day, this sort of scene just fills me with a sense of well-being. So, I think we're going to probably leave you fairly soon so that you can go and spend the last little bit of the drive with the lions and with Brent. I believe Brent has bored them so severely that they've gone to sleep. And one of them is in fact snoring, so I shall congratulate him for that when he gets back to camp. We've had a wonderful day, some hyenas, fruitless leopard tracking exercise, but that was still quite fun for us. And chilly day, wonderful morning, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for your questions. Some excellent ones, especially from the youngsters at Crawford Plains in Alberta, Canada, and our friends at the Dayton Children's Hospital in Ohio. Thank you for your questions. You just keep them coming. If you're a new viewer, my name is James. On camera is Viam. We are both about 3'4" in height. We look much bigger on camera though, so don't worry about us. And I'd also like to just give a quick shout out to Tara and the others in the control room, and to Brent and Brian on the other vehicle, who you're going to close off with tonight. And thank you for your questions, comments, and all your contributions. We will see you tomorrow morning in the chilly African dawn. And for the next few minutes, I'm just going to enjoy the silence of this incredible African sky.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. As you can see, there's a little more movement, some grooming, so maybe there's a precursor to a bit of mobile lines for the last couple of minutes of the safari. So at the moment, no real allo grooming or social grooming going. Each one seems to be grooming themselves, but oh, there we go. There's another one standing. So this is all quite stretching. Good signs that we might get some movement. Oh, or we could just lie down again. There we go, there's the first bit of social grooming starting. Very important in lions. That's social grooming. Oh, there's a yawn. Helps reaffirm bonds between the pride members, because when they do feed, it is quite an aggressive debacle, and they need to playing with a stick. I'm sure that doesn't taste as nice as an impala. You can see even the adults can be quite playful when they're waking up. And also part of that whole social grooming and the playing of the adult lions, jumping, whatnot, that all is very good stuff for strengthening the pride bonds. So in this little pile right next to us, probably no further than 5 feet from the door, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. 6. 7 and 8 are just round the corner. There's a three-way lick going. One lioness licking the one that's licking the other. Or Oh, that looks nice. So not only is the grooming quite important for keeping the pride bonds close together, it is also important for grooming. It helps keep parasites down, and remember, a lion's tongue can be quite rough, so it will definitely remove some of the smaller ectoparasites like fleas and ticks. And you'll see quite often lions do a motion with their mouth. It's very similar to what domestic cats and dogs do, and they do those little bites. And that's actually almost more specific, going after fleas and ticks, or maybe even the eggs of fleas. Such an amazing and special thing. I'm always in awe every time I get to spend time with animals like this, even though they've been sleeping. Just being able to watch this sort of secret little window into their lives, and them not taking any notice of us. There's a very, very special feeling I get when I'm out in the bush with the animals. Can't really describe it. Or maybe I can. It feels like I'm at home. So there we go. That was a bit of the de-fleeing movement I just talked about there. She did. Quite nice how the shadows play with the lights there. Oh, stretched. Bless you. So most of the animals in this pride are looking really well and healthy. A little bit on the hungry side, but nothing too serious. Oh, jeez. Look how lithe their skeleton is, how they're able to flex their spine like that. And obviously that's quite important for hunting. And they do contort in some amazing positions while they're in full chase. Incredible athletes, lions. But definitely the sprinters. Lion and leopard. Short bursts of extreme speed and power, followed up by lots of inactivity. Oh, come on guys, you're going to get moving? I don't think they are going to move too far. I think it might be a little bit of the get up, walk 5 meters, go to the loo and have another sleep. We're just going to go forward a little bit to check. Oh. I jumped out of 4-wheel drive there. You okay there, Brian? So they are moving off into a thick block to the north of us, which is never really a good sign for us because our boundary isn't too far from there. But it has been a great day spending almost all day with them. Here comes old Junior, always lagging behind, lazy male. There's a bit of greeting going up there, and as we're coming to the end of this sunset safari, with these lions disappearing into the African night out on a hunt, hopefully they're successful for them, and hopefully for us they're successful while still on Djuma, and they don't go visit our northern neighbors again. But it's been wonderful having you guys on the vehicle with us. It's been really amazing. We really do appreciate all the questions and feedback that you guys give us. And I'm just going to go a little bit forward here. There we go. The questions and feedback and that you guys give us, we really do appreciate it, and it's an absolute privilege for us to be able to share our love and knowledge for the African bush with you. So please join us again for the sunrise safari tomorrow, and we're going to have a great time. So from the Thumb, Brian and myself, and Tara and everyone else in Final Control, have a splendid evening, and we will see you bright and early for the sunrise safari.